Hi, I'm Lisa K. Donner, sitting in for Sarah Calgo. Joining me today are Graham Noble, Andrew Moran, David Patterson, and Michelle White. This is the Conservative 5, Liberty Nation's online TV news program. Every so often, there comes an issue that captures the zeitgeist of the nation. Affordability seems to be one of these timeless topics that has taken the political center stage. Like it or not, we have the mayor-elect of New York City, Zohran Mamdani, to thank for this. Politicians are elbowing each other out of the way to own the affordability issue. Andrew, from an economic perspective, what sayest thou about this brand new, yet very old topic of affordable housing for young people?
Well, on the issue of affordable housing, I mean, if you just look at New York City, the whole housing affordability crisis stems from the very policies that Mamdani likely supports, rent controls being one of them. The studies on this are clear. I've written about this for years, and it shows that, at least in New York City, rent controls lead to housing shortages, apartment complexes in disrepair, and market distortions. Now, on a national level, the issue with housing affordability is more of a decades of underbuilding. I mean, you look at the total housing starts in the United States, or new housing construction, if you will, and those numbers have not recovered from the global financial crisis or the housing market collapse nearly 20 years ago. So the administration, they're talking about affordability, and they're presenting 50-year mortgages, and now they want portable mortgages. The issue is supply. If you catch up to the supply, because I think the deficit number is about 4.7 million, if you start building more, you don't have to worry about 50-year mortgages, because then the prices are going to come down. The good thing is that mortgage rates are falling, but the issue is supply. I think I spoke to an economist recently, and he said that if you solve this little pesky problem called housing supply, then the concern about 50-year mortgages, or maybe Trump will go with 100-year mortgages eventually, those things will not matter as much.
I have to admit, they are coming up with some pretty creative solutions. I was like, a 50-year mortgage. Anybody else think about that?
I think, well, you're not abolishing 30-year mortgages or 15-year mortgages. You're providing another option, but you're going to pay more interest on it. And you're going to have, you talk about affordability, that's going to be an issue too, because then people are going to take on more housing than they can afford. The only issue, the proposal I like is the portable mortgages, whereby, because if you look at the early days of the pandemic, the Fed slash rates is 0%. People took advantage of 2 or 3% mortgages, and then they took up the existing supply that was in the market, which was, dramatically tight in the years prior to that. And so now under Bill Pulte, they had the top U.S. housing regulator. He says we can transfer the mortgages that people have today to somebody else. And that could free up a lot of existing housing stock, which, I will give props to that. That's a good idea.
What do you think, Michelle? Are kids really in a tight spot now? There's no place for them to go, and they don't have enough money to spend on a mortgage?
Yes, but the problem is they don't know what communism or socialism is. And downstream from Mamdani's policies is communism, and worse, an Islamic State of New York. But downstream from Trump's MAGA policies is prosperity. If they don't know enough about communism and socialism and how it's failed because our education system is failing them. But that's another topic altogether. The far left knows that these policies are not going to work. So that's why they're throwing around this affordability word like rice. I was watching an interview last night with a panel with a Democrat and a Republican, and the Democrat accountant said affordability once or twice in every answer for every question that he was asked. And it's like, during COVID when they were saying safe and effective, and now it's affordability. It's gaslighting. The Affordable Care Act was anything but affordable. But President Trump has always been focused on affordability without using that word. So all of his policies downstream from there, bringing jobs back to America, closing the border, bringing $9 trillion of investments into the United States, 9.5 after last night with MBS. So those all lead to prosperity, brokering peace, with Gaza and trying to with Ukraine. All of this amounts to a better standard of living for us, i.e. affordability. It's just going to take time for some of these policies, especially with the One Big Beautiful Bill, to see the effects.
Well, it's interesting you said that, because President Trump took up the issue of affordability earlier this week. Let's play cut 2.
We are correcting it. We have strong borders now. We have a great economy. The prices are coming down. The Democrats like to use the word affordability, but their affordability was terrible. The problem with the Democrats, they lie. They do it so well. They talk about affordability, but I'm the one that's getting the prices down. As an example, they had the highest inflation in the history of our country. I have it down now to a normal level, and it's going down further. Thank you very much, everybody.
So that sort of gives you an idea where he is. And that backs up what Michelle was just saying. You know, Dave, we had a dinner party last week, and we were all talking about the one couple's son and his wife. They just had a baby. They're both 26, and they both just bought their first home. And everyone was like, they're 26 and they bought a home. How did they do it? Well, they did it because their son is very frugal. He saved a lot of money. In the first couple of years that they were married, they decided to wait a couple of years, have a kid. And she worked and he worked, and they slaved away and they worked hard and they got their mortgage. And so there it is. Sometimes I wonder if kids are just thinking, you know, I don't have to, it's not as hard as it seems, or it is harder than it seems. I don't know.
I think it's individual circumstances that actually play here. I mean, we've never had too much of a society that values savings, particularly after World War II. It's come to a point where people get what they get and when they want it, and suddenly you come to a point where that's not true. And that causes...
Well, but a mortgage is not like a TV dinner. You know, you just can't pop it in there and let it go for a minute and a half.
Well, that's what was happening before 2008, however, though, where you had things called ninjas, no income, no job financing. And you don't want to go back to that kind of circumstance just because there are people who don't save. And I think that the friend that you talk about is really the exception rather than the rule. The other thing that I really don't quite understand is how it is that the technology has not been applied to housing in order to use modern materials, in order to create homes that don't cost as much to build. And I see every now and then, the small homes and modular homes and homes that have been built with new materials, but I don't see that as much as the deficit in homes as Andrew has explained.
Graham, you like the idea?
If I just may interject with a couple of statistics. One is that the median age for home buyers is now 40. The average buyer is 59. A lot of the buying that goes on in the United States today are repeat home buyers. And you look at the numbers 30 years ago, the number was 28. Median home prices, that's up 30% since in over 5 years. In some places, 47%. So those numbers are really, I think a lot of us are discounting the troubles that a lot of young people are facing today. In addition to, let's say, car loans, car prices are the average price now over $50,000. A lot of the kids are saddled with student loan debt. Yes, we can debate they made terrible decisions, but the cost of everything just keeps accelerating. And a lot of older people will say, well, we had to deal with 17% mortgages, but they didn't deal with home prices surging 30% in just a couple of years.
Fair enough. Graham?
Well, I'm actually a little surprised that we are not 3D printing houses by now. And I'm not saying that as a joke. I really am surprised we're not doing that. 3D printing is an amazing technology, and I guess maybe it's still perhaps astronomically expensive to do it. But when that technology first came out, I knew that it was going to. It's at some point or another. Everyone's talking about artificial intelligence, but at some point or another, 3D printing is going to change entire economies.
Well, when they learn how to build a house with 3D printing. I don't know. I don't know that I'd want to mortgage a house like that, especially for 50 years.
Well, you may not be applying the 3D printing to the entire house, but you certainly could do it to components of the house and then make it modular and stick it together like a model.
The Amish. The Amish are better than robots. I will do this.
Absolutely.
The Amish are better than robots. That's a great point. Somebody should have that on a T-shirt, I think.
Well, when the Amish build a house, it's a community effort, and they all get together and put the house up. And
But everything the Amish build is so heavy. Have you ever tried to lift one of their pieces of furniture?
Because it's well made. It's
oh my gosh,
sturdy.
Yeah, it'll last for hundreds and hundreds, longer than your mortgage.
Right.
Well, it's likely this is just the beginning of the government trying to solve an economic issue. Will they make it better or worse? Don't answer that. Thanks, panel. That's it for our Conservative 5 panel today. Check out our other C5 shows and segments on your favorite video platform. YouTube, Vimeo, Rumble, we're on them all. As well, Liberty Nation News has its own Roku channel where you can see all of our TV productions. Stop by to see our new aggregate polling operation, The Public Square. I'm your host, Lisa K. Donner, sitting in for Sarah Cowgill. Thanks for joining us today. Get your fix of free thinking and free speech at libertynation.com.